All right, so you want to jump into the questions?
Let's go. Yeah,
All right.
please.
So how did you develop an interest in mission-based projects or organizations or NGOs?
Yeah, so for me, it was complete random. So I'm coming from a sports background, and it was through a master program that I got accepted in, which is Sustainable Peace Through Sports master's program with the University for Peace, International University of Monaco, and UC Berkeley. I did an exchange program with UC Berkeley. So basically, this was my entry point to the NGO sector. And after my master's, I used all the knowledge that I have from the professional sports and from the sports for development, which is using sports as a tool to improve, empower, and educate youth living in unprivileged communities. After my master's, I got recruited directly by Right to Play, and this is how I started my career with NGOs, etc.
Nice.
Now I'm consulting. I'm a global advisor for Right to Play, for care organization in Turkey and the Dutch Football Federation.
Nice. Okay. So that was my second question, is how did you get involved in Right to Play? But you definitely answered it. How has the experience been working with them overall, just in general?
Well, it's brilliant. A lot of learning, dealing and working with communities, even in my country, Lebanon, that I didn't know before. You intend to meet a lot of people, get to know how can you share your experience and how you can facilitate for these communities things that they were not aware of, by using a joyful and very genuine tool that is play and sports. So having that in my background and having sports for me, that helped me a lot within my childhood and within my adulthood as well. I feel very happy to use it to empower and to help others seek and achieve their goals.
That sounds good. So going into what David Lewis was, what I was referring to. So as I stated, he's an NGO management theorist. So that we've been discussing in class. And then, so one of the first questions I want to ask you, so a big argument in NGO mission-based sector right now, what does management mean in an NGO-based organization? And is it to be run as a business?
Yeah, I witnessed the transition of the NGO from being I would say a little bit chaotic and not structured, into being more structured, this change came from the corporate world and taking some sort of processes, managerial tools from the corporate to the NGO and organizational world. This, for me, I think it was beneficial from a Right to Play perspective. So I'm not generalizing on all levels. Because the management is very important in a setting that is a lot where you witness a lot of challenges. You have a lot of it's very dynamic. It changes a lot because there is no stability. So the management part will help you to organize your fund, organize your outcomes in order to be ready to mitigate any risk or to overcome any challenge that you are not familiar with or you are not expecting. So this is how I see it. I would name some of the tools, for example, the log frames, even the detailed budget that we work on. I don't know if you have any other specific tools that you can help me share with you some of the experiences using them. But I would say for example, from a procurement perspective, getting different quotations, having all the invoices legalized. So yeah, it comes from the little, like very small little details from the field until the reporting and yeah, financial reporting and narrative reporting.
Nice. Okay. So yeah, I'm taking managerial accounting now as well. And a lot of the cases we do, because I'm in a sustainability program, are around NGOs and how they're managing funds. And so I don't think I had this question on there, but I guess it will play into it. So the next question was, in your experience, are there other influence in the organization that may interfere with its priorities? So if you want to start off with talking about how the funding plays into it, I guess, like the expenses and the accounting aspect of it, or even the budgeting, how has that interfered with the main mission and focus of the organization?
Um, yeah, so I would think about it from different perspectives. First, I would say we are more efficient, and we are thinking more of how we can invest. I would say I cannot say the organization, but no, I would say myself. I look now at the budget as an investment that I'm doing in this community. And once I think about this, it will help me shape my activities better. It will help me know where to budget, how to budget it, and how to organize it across my my quarter or my whole project cycle. And this also made us think more about the exit strategy. Knowing that, looking at the budget, doing our calendarization and projection, then we will know that this budget will be ending at a certain period of time. So what would be my exit strategy? How can I invest in this money so that this community can keep on enjoying the impact of the project beyond the budget level? Because as you know, the organization works according to budget, and sometimes the budget or the fund is cut or the project ended. So now when we are organizing ourselves, we are able to see more into the future rather than drowning into a day-to-day operation and not figuring out how much money do we have, how are we going to spend it, arriving at the end of the project not spending enough money, and then you start throwing the money away just to not to fall into an underspending dilemma. So this is one of the things that is I say this is the positive influence. However, there is an influence that I would say harmed the organization humanitarian work, because once now organization are and this comes from, I blame the UN on this front, because nowadays you hear UN agencies speaking I would say a harmful language, such as cost per child. So even though they have explanation for that, but for me it is not a language that I would use. This language started by the UN because they full-fledged sort of the managerial and organize. They introduced the corporate world to the organization in a way or another, and they started costing child. So they tell you, for example, so this is your budget. They don't bother looking into the budget and the activities that you're doing. What they care about is the cost per child. So if you tell them, for example, 90 euros per child, okay, this is fine for them. But if it's 100 euros per child, it's not fine for them. It's too expensive, and they don't even care about checking what is the activity and what's happening behind that. So this is something that I personally experienced. I'm not gonna name the organization, but yeah, this is something that I witnessed, and I wasn't happy with it at all.
Mm-hmm.
So this is an implication of how the fund managerial aspect harmed our language and our terms and how we think about our projects.
That's very interesting. I didn't even know that was a thing, the cost per child, but it's interesting to just put a label, well, put a price on how much you're able to spend on one child if you have a whole organization.
Yeah.
So I can see where your frustration is coming from there, definitely. Do you ever, as far as influence, do you ever have any pushback from like government regulation or from the countries that you all are in?
What do you mean?
Such as like policies that may be put in place that may not that may go against government structures, or sometimes trying to open a business having to go through a certain number of steps that may
Okay.
seem like frustrating?
No, not really. But at this like one interesting feature that you would look at is that organizations, the complexity of working with organization is that you have to be compliant with three different authorities. So you have to be compliant with the government where you are implementing your programs. You have to be compliant with the donor, either it is a corporate or a foundation or a government body, and you have also to be compliant with your internal policies. So it's not really having a problem with it's being able to find a middle ground among all these three policies, and to be able to adapt and to be flexible enough to meet these three different policies. And here we speak from a financial or programmatic or etc. And I think within your questions, we will be coming into that at a later stage.
Nice. Understood. Okay. So my next question is, so you talked about this a little bit in the beginning. How has your management dealt with the growth in the organization?
And when you say growth, what do you mean with growth? Is it growth in terms of?
Go ahead. Oh, expanding in terms of growing into different countries,
Okay.
business. Yeah.
Yeah. So it definitely helped us a lot, and we grew. For example, I'll give you an example. In Lebanon, where I started, the budget of the organization was at 1.5 million, and in 4 years we were able to raise the fund into 3.54 million. And we were able to do this due to our very clear and structured and transparent managerial process that we have. And on top of that, I think what helped us growing the most is at the end the use of technology and an IT system that would help us, that made things very transparent and very systematic. This was also a big added value for us. And the growth happened from from a donation or funds perspective, and also from a reach and quality perspective as well. So yes, the management helped us a lot because we were, as I was saying before, we were able to use the funds in a proper way and think about it as an investment more. And not as a donation or a fund or something that you would just spend over a period of time and that's it.
Okay, so that leads good into the next question. So do you have donors, and so how do you manage the influence? How do you manage their influence over the organization? Just for context, some of the things we've been reading about is the fact that you sometimes the way you're moving in the organization can shift based on the influence of people who are putting money or backing the money into the organization.
Yes, exactly. It definitely does influence. However, then it will be the strategic plan that the organization has set at the beginning of the year that will shape eventually who are the donors that you will tackle, who are the donors that you will be taking money from, and you will approach, and who doesn't fall into your goals and outcomes that you are projecting for the year. Now, what you also need to think about is you have donors that, because even how funds are approached are different. So you have, for example, some donors that they have specific calls opening that you need to meet their agenda. Some others are flexible to high thematic areas. I will give you an example. A government, ministry of government would tell you, in Netherlands, for example, they would tell you we are looking for innovative projects that help empower youth in specific region. And then you can set the needs, you can work on them and use an innovative tool. Other organizations as well, not governmental, can tell you we are working on creativity. So any project that would meet creativity, we are open to host. And you have other bodies that would go into very specific thematic areas, such as we are working on gender-based violence for this age category. So any fund will be, and then it's up to you as an organization to tackle where do you feel at ease the most, and where do you feel, because it is our duty as an organization to know what is the need in the community, what is the community looking for, what do they want to improve in their community. Because if I go and ask for a fund that is focusing on, let's say, I don't know, early marriage, in a community where there is no one identifying this as an issue, and I come with an early marriage topic, this will create a clash in the community. Mm-hmm. So I know that before early marriage, I need to talk about gender equality, I need to work on sort of awareness. So I go and check with a very light activities that can help the community reflect on sort of issues before coming and talking about early marriage. And this creates a lot of clash in the communities because many organizations goes and follow the funds and follow the trend without consulting or without doing a proper needs assessment in their community. I'll give you another point of view, which happens in this in the fundraising and project design campaign or workshops that we do. Most of the time, these people do not come from the community. Most of the time, these people are from different nationalities than the country where the program will take place, and this is where the humanitarian and developmental work becomes harmful. The organization should tackle the fund and design programs that are aligned with the community in which they are implementing, and this is a very core in asking for funds and asking for project funding.
Understood. So I'm gonna keep in case real quick, in case it like times out. I don't know if Zoom just does it with 3 or more people, but in case it times out, I do want to finish asking the questions. Is it okay if I just call you on WhatsApp?
Of course.
Okay, so that's just in case it breaks up. I'll just call you on WhatsApp.
Yeah. Don't worry.
All right. So the next one. So Louis, who's the theorist, he has this mission-based life cycle model organization. So what stage is the organization currently in? So I'm assuming it's not in the startup stage, but is it in the adolescence where you're starting to expand more, or the mature where you're sustaining the organization? I believe it would just be those two. The other ones he has is the stagnant, where you're in a decline, which clearly I'm talking to you, it's not at that stage, or the defunct, where you're possibly looking into venture into a new project.
Okay. This I will just highlight something because the two questions are related, and I like the flow of the question. I like that we are like going through them very fluidly. So when you speak about the donations or the funds, you have to take into account that you have two sort of fundings. Okay, you have the unrestricted fund and you have the restricted fund. Okay, so when I go and ask for money from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs or from a foundation, these are restricted funds that goes into specific programs. And then you have unrestricted funds that are on 60-70% coming from individual contributors that they support the company without any restrictions. It means that the company is trustworthy enough to use the funds to sustain or to grow or to implement programs. It's up to the organization, to the NGO, to use the funds as they want. And when your unrestricted is solid enough, this means that your NGO has more independency. Why? Because then you have more fund to use or to invest in needs that you think are best for the community. Of course, after doing a sort of a needs assessment in the community, working with the community, so everything should be community-led and community-based. And jumping to your second question, so, and this is also a question that I would, if you can note that you can highlight it even more with Elias during your call, if you will manage to have a call with him. Because many things happened when I left Try to Play, and there's lots of changes. But my point of view is that we are in an adolescent going into maturity. Why am I saying that? Is that because we are now managing to expand and to be more at ease with our unrestricted funds. Okay, and once your unrestricted fund is good enough, and then you can be on a maturity level. You can think of how to grow yourself, how to improve your tools, how to improve your intellectual property that you have, the methodology that you have, and then innovating, using new tools in the communities. And I think this is where Right to Play is at the moment. However, I would keep that questions open, and I would stress you to take it further with Elias, where he can elaborate even more on this.
Okay. Hey, so the next one is just how do you see leadership in the field as far as the third sector? Is it more so open to internal suggestions? So is it not so much a top-down structure, or is there more so usually a strong founder that sticks to the focus of the mission? So how much, I guess, even in your role, how much autonomy do you have as far as being able to influence some of the things that are being implemented into the organization?
Yeah. I will start with the founder point that you have highlighted, because this is something that Right to Play a little bit suffered from. I think in the past 5-6 years. So what happened is that, yes, the founder was focusing a lot on the vision, and it's also interesting to know what are the characteristics of founders in general. because then you will find a pattern with these people, like how and especially in NGOs. And I think this is a very interesting topic as well. What are the characteristics? How are they driven? What do they focus on? And they are people that see the big vision and don't get into small details, and they focus a lot on the final outcome. Exactly. So this what pushed the board to hire a CEO for the organization that is not the founder, and then the founder is only job is to fundraise for the organization, and of course he is not, or he or she is not. In this case, it's a he. They are not allowed to. It's not, this mentality of it's not your organization. It's much more beyond that. And then here as well, you come into a lot of challenges where these people usually are very they come without any filter, so they speak things sometimes, and it can harm the organization. They can have some stands somewhere that can also harm the organization. And they are very passionate. They have a lot of passion. They are sudden, blunt, etc. So you really need to know how to manage these people and how to channel their energy in the best possible way. Yeah. So in terms of organization, if it's top to bottom or bottom to up. So now it is the power of the decision making has shifted towards the country-based and program-based countries. Back in the days, it was coming from the headquarters. Now the headquarters job is only to overview and guide somehow the country offices. But in general, the country offices now has the authority, and they have their independency on managing, on fundraising their funds.
All right, thank you. And so how important is it to relate to the people that you are developing these communities for? And I guess that'll speak to, is there any influence on the decision of the of who is over the country? So the country lead, I can't remember the title that you said that they were, but how important are these? Is it to relate to the people that you are developing this in their community for? So I guess it like talks to like the issues that I brought up earlier, which I think that I want to really expand on, is like the differences in culture.
Mm. Well, it's extremely important because once you live in the country, once you are interacting with the communities on day-to-day basis, you build up a relationship. You get to know how the funds should be used, what is the best way, what are the social issues that should be tackled, and how we prioritize them. It's extremely important from a cultural perspective. Personally, since I'm working in different contexts, I see that it's only with experience where we were able to deal with different cultures without any harm and without any how would I say, like overstepping. Is it expression? Can we, without overstepping their traditions, their consideration, and their ideas? And these are skills that everyone can gain, but at the same time, it needs a lot of time. It's you know what I think it's the leadership style that comes into sharing ideas, facilitating things rather than imposing and leading, and like it's the power with and not the power over.
And also, just a follow-up question on that, I didn't have that on there, but how receptive normally are the people within the communities to organization to people who necessarily may not be of this specific culture? Will it fall into like what you were saying? It's just a matter of making sure that you're understanding and like the traditional, being able to respect the traditions. But like, what is their like initial intake on the organization once it comes into their community?
Yeah. So you have different layers. So you have definitely the financial layer. They know this community. They know that you're coming with funds.
Mm.
They know that there is money behind this program. They are not. They are people that live on funds. You know, it's their lifestyle. So this is something that they know, and from there it all depends on your approach. It all depends on how you deal with them, on how you speak with them, on how you articulate your ideas. And within your approach comes your methodology. So what is the methodology behind your project? What are you using? What is the tools? Do they feel that is beneficial for them? Do they feel that it's something new, or is it something that everyone is doing just because it's trendy and there is funds coming for this reason? And this is where we stand out as Right to Play. This is what makes us having more accessibility to the field, is because we are using a tool that not all the organization use. That it's joyful. It's a happy setting that we create.
Mm-hmm.
And on top of that, you have a very well defined and articulated methodology behind it, where when communities use it, they feel the impact and they get attached to it. And us, when we go to the community and start working and facilitating workshops with the youth that will be implementing sessions with the children, we use the same approach. And once you introduce a new experience for these people, that it will become addictive, and they will always look into coming back and getting more of this experience that they are lacking within their community. And it's a lot based on discussions, open-ended questions. So it's basically facilitating the information.
Great, thank you. So then our next question, we have 5 more. So how difficult is it to work in these countries as you're not an American, sorry. This is actually a question for the organization I had before. But I guess like speaking to you, so you're working in Lebanon, correct?
Yeah, now in Lebanon, Turkey, remotely, Egypt on the field.
Okay, so how, I guess from being someone who is Lebanese, how is it working in non-Lebanon country compared to your host country?
I think it's interesting for me because during my workshops, I'm able to learn a lot from the participants.
Mm-hmm.
Get to know the context in which they are living, getting to know where these behaviors are coming from. For me to know how can I use my tool to influence these behaviors and to help them realize potentials that they don't know in themselves and in the children. So I enjoy it. Sometimes it is stressful at the beginning. Mm-hmm. Just for you to build the common ground, to build the trust, and to build that sort of a commitment between among both sides. But once you feel this like line of connection taking place, then it will be a very interesting journey and the learning journey for me.
I guess I relate to that as well, because I'm even in my own work, I'm trying to figure out if I want to go back to the States, if I want to stay in Paris or go somewhere else and try to work at an NGO. And I'm looking very optimistic as to where I'm going next year. And I think that those are some of the challenges that I will probably face as well. So I think it's very brave of you and inspiring. To be doing the work that you're doing. So the next is how important, I guess you touched on this as well, how important is it to have a strong work culture?
What do you mean by strong work culture?
So in the sense of work culture, just in speaking of being in an environment where you feel comfortable to go to your to go to management, as far as your staff that are working under you, being able to have good relationships with them. And so it's we say strong work culture as more so like a comfortable work environment.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so again, we have to think of the context, correct? And the context in which we operate is a unstable, intense, and very dynamic and complex. So you definitely need to provide the people working in this setting a sort of healthy environment where they need to feel that they are supported and they feel that things are stable, because even this is a little bit hard to manage because your fund is not stable, correct? So anyone that is coming and working in the NGO sector, you know that you are working for a specific period of time. Mm-hmm. Even if it's 6 months, 8 months, or 12 months, but you know that there is expiry date for your contract based on the funding that you are attached to. So it is not easy in general, because even the people in the environment, they are all affected by this. And this takes us back to the fact that where are we? Are we an adolescent, maturity, or sustaining phase? And in each phase, you have within the organization different dynamics. So it's very important, the culture, to have a strong culture and healthy environment is an extremely important feature to help the organization thrive.
Hey,
and this would definitely affect the field, because the field is very sensitive and they can really sense any miscommunication or any sort of negative behavior that is happening with the organization. The field is very they have a high empathy regarding this, and they can take advantage very quickly from it.
Okay, thank you. And so then, as we come to the closing of our questions, what managerial advice do you have for people that are looking to go into the NGO sector? And you can do it based off of your own personal experience in your management position, or just from things that you've seen in the organization overall.
Yeah. First thing is that them to think or approach fund as an investment. This is the first thing, because this will shift their whole thinking. The second one is to be confident about the approach and the methodology that they are using, because this is what will build credibility with the field. The last thing, it will be to promise too little and then deliver a lot to the community.
Okay. I like the last one.
Yeah.
And so just two more. The first is, have you noticed any major changes in the field since you started? How long have you been working for Right to Play? I didn't ask that question.
Almost, I think, 8 years.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, 4 years as a program manager in Lebanon, and it's been almost 4 years as a global advisor.
Okay. So have you
as a consultant? Yeah.
Nice. So yeah, have you noticed any major changes in the field since you started, and where do you think that NGOs or mission-based organizations are moving towards for the future? Any new changes that may be happening?
Yeah, and Right to Play, I witnessed definitely a lot of changes. For example, a lot of efficient changes from a financial perspective. We did a lot of cutting budgets that can be removed. For example, there used to be regional offices. These regional offices are not there anymore. But and some of the regional positions have been waived out, and the other technical positions, they operate from specific program-based countries or remotely. And there are plenty of other moves that are happening from an organizational perspective, and this comes from the fact that the power and the decision making is going to the field more. What else happened? What other changes from a managerial perspective? I can't really answer more than that, because I'm not engaged as much as before. And now as a consultant, I know these high level things happening, but I cannot say other things, and I'm not sure that if it's correct or not. But these are the things that I know so far. Other things, because I'm running on my own in Egypt, I'm running the operation, the country operation on my own. So I don't really know what's happening otherwise in other countries. But this is something that I know, that regional offices have been removed. Many positions have been removed, so there is a lot of cuts and budget and making things more efficient. Yeah. Regarding the future of NGOs in general, I'm not a big fan of, just to say it out loud, I'm not a big fan of organization of NGOs. Other than Right to Play, I wouldn't have worked for any other organization before, because I don't see, we go back to the autonomy and the ability to tackle needs. So NGOs are highly driven by political agendas. And this is something that bothers me a lot. Therefore, I would more look into the social enterprises and other organizations that can generate money, and then social impact investment, etc. Because these things have a little bit of more autonomy to manage their funds and use it where it should be used. And it is more sustainable, and it helps. It speaks the language of investment and of social capital and social investment more than NGOs.
I agree. I definitely agree. All right. Well, yeah, I definitely my classes. I definitely agree with that last statement. But all right. Okay, it's 1 o'clock. I'm trying to make sure I manage my time. So I'll end yours.
No problem.
But no, thank you so much. Oh, do you want to pass along the contact for Elias?
Yeah, I'll share it. I'll just send you his number directly on WhatsApp, and I'll drop him a message telling him that you will approach, and yes, I'm sure you will have another global perspective on the organization. So now we spoke a little bit or a lot of more the field itself, and he will give you another global operational perspective, in addition to a nice community point of view.
That sounds good. I'm so excited. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for even taking time out. I pushed this research back. And my professor is like, no, I know, like when you're trying to do interviews, like things happen, just like try to see if you can get one. So I am so appreciative of you just taking the time out to talk about your organization. And it's super inspiring, like I said, to just be hearing about the work that you're doing personally, and that it's been like fulfilling. Because I know, like for me, I'm just like, I'm scared to go into something and then it's not what I expect it to be, but to know that there are organizations there that are actually doing exactly what is needed to be done, it's super dope and inspiring. So thank you so much.
Yeah. And I want you to be very confident that the topics that you are tackling are extremely important. And you took two things. That one is that more managerial, and the second one is more from a field perspective. So you hold both ends, and it's a topic that is that should be out there and should be spoken and articulated, because it will help the NGOs to think that because what NGOs are doing now, they are copy pasting the corporate world, and this doesn't work. And this is something very important for the NGOs to know how to balance between their identity and the corporate and the business side of it.
All right. Well, thank you.
Okay. No problem. Thank you. Have a good day.
Like one of his other questions that he has, that David Lewis has in his book. So I was like, okay, well, I can just add that in there too. But thank you.
Go ahead. Then.
Enjoy your weekend and safe travels back.
And happy birthday.
Oh, thank you.